Wendy looked at Kevin in bewilderment. "When are you finally going to get divorced?" she asked. His wife was, as always, a paragon of beauty. Slim waist, long legs, a neat bundle on her head. She was perfect even in anger, like a living illustration from a glossy magazine. "Kevin, I'm addressing you," Wendy stomped her foot, eager to get his attention. "Why do I need all this red tape?" Divorcing her would turn into paperwork and division of assets, and he didn't want Wendy to turn into a housewife. "We have food delivery and dry cleaning," Wendy grumpily remarked, sarcastically offering to share Kevin with his wife. It wasn't the first time this scene had been repeated, and it always ended the same way, with nothing. Kevin has been married to Britney for 18 years. They met at a friend's wedding, and she soon proved to be the right person for him. Modest, friendly, and working as a kindergarten teacher. Their son, Xenia, was already finishing school. The birth of the child occurred before their first anniversary. During 10 years of marriage, Kevin advanced to deputy director of an advertising agency, and Britney remained the same friendly teacher, cooked the same porridge for breakfast, wore the same polka dot skirts, and did not change her hair. In the end, Kevin tried to negotiate with his conscience, but in the end, he decided to cast aside all doubt. "Kevin, when are you going to divorce your wife?" There she is, like a model. Slim waist, slender legs, a neat bundle on her head, eyes as sly as a fox's. Everything about her is just right. Even when she's angry, she looks like the cover of a glossy magazine. "Kevin, I'm talking to you." Wendy stomped her foot, trying to get her lover's attention. "Just go already," Kevin threw in irritably. Divorce seemed to him like a paperwork headache, division of property, and endless litigation. "And besides, I don't want you washing my shirts or wasting time in the kitchen." "We have food delivery and laundry," Wendy added grumpily. "What, you want me to share you with her?" She made a grimace as if sour milk had been dripped into her coffee. This conversation had been repeated many times before, and each time it ended in nothing. Kevin had been married to Britney for 18 years. They had met at a friend's wedding, and she had soon become the perfect choice for him. Modest, friendly, working as a kindergarten teacher. Their son Xenia has almost finished school. The baby was born before their first anniversary. For 10 years of their marriage, Kevin grew up to deputy director of an advertising agency, and Britney remained the same, cooked porridge for breakfast, wore polka dot skirts, and did not change her hair. In the end, Kevin tried to negotiate with his conscience, but then he just gave up. "Oh, I've already explained that it's terribly troublesome." "But still good enough," Kevin said, his voice sounding weary. "Why would I want to do this gray routine?" He rolled his eyes as if looking for a way out of a hopeless situation. "There's no way you can get out of it?" Wendy retorted reproachfully. He clenched his fingers around his temples irritably. His girlfriend was getting more insistent with every conversation about divorce, but he wasn't going to do it. Each played a different role. Wendy was the epitome of youth and celebration, and his wife was the model of domesticity and comfort. Mixing these two sides of his life was not something Kevin wanted to do. Wendy, on the other hand, was returning home in high spirits. She had just signed a favorable deal with a new supplier and was anticipating a boost in profits. Her phone rang as she stopped at a stoplight. "Hello? Can you pick up Stella from daycare?" Her brother's voice sounded through the receiver. "John has a flat tire, the tow truck is here, and I can't leave." "A meeting is starting." Her brother's voice sounded pleading. "Of course I can," Wendy replied after a short pause. "Just send me the address of the daycare center." She loved her nephew, even though she didn't see him that often. Her brother quickly sent a text message with the address, and Wendy typed it into the navigator, heading down the new route. She had never picked up her nephew from daycare before and got a little lost in the hallways of the building, but eventually found the right group. Cautiously peeking through the door behind the children's lockers, she saw small, interested faces looking for familiar features. "Hello, I'm still the aunt from Pensacola. Aunt Wendy," she said as little Stephen rushed into her arms with a joyous exclamation. There was no doubt of their kinship. The teacher smiled and shifted her gaze from the boy to when their gazes met, both women felt some incomprehensible, vague realization. Wendy quickly collected Stephen, and they were on their way to the kindergarten exit when someone called out to her. "Liliana, wait." It was Britney. "This may not be the best time or place, but I know about you and my husband," she said. Wendy flinched. "Are you going to file for divorce?" she asked, hoping for a quick release, but Britney shook her head. And to Wendy's surprise, there was no anger or sadness reflected in her gaze. "Wendy, let's meet and talk." "I have no beef with you," Britney suggested calmly. Wendy hesitated, expecting a very different development. "If you still want to talk, I finish work tomorrow at 5. Wendy answered nothing, only squeezed her nephew's hand tighter and hurried to the car, where her hands nervously began tapping the steering wheel. Time stretched slowly. 10 minutes to 5, then 5 minutes to 5. For the first time, Wendy felt unprepared for the upcoming meeting. When Britney came out of the daycare gate and saw Wendy, she simply said hello and sat in the passenger seat of the car. A thought flashed through Wendy's mind. This woman was nothing like the demure and shy girl Kevin had always described. "I won't torture you long," Britney began. "I've known about my husband's affairs for quite some time." Wendy raised an eyebrow in surprise. "Yes, about the affairs," Britney confirmed, noticing her reaction. "And you're far from the first. You invited me here to brag about your knowledge?" Wendy asked ironically. "No," Britney retorted. "I promise that in 3 months Kevin will be all yours. I will be out of his life. And all I ask in return is that you keep quiet about our meeting." The cosmetics store owner thought. For a moment, the offer was straightforward and seemed easily doable, but something about it was alarming. "Still, what difference would it make? And where's my guarantee?" Wendy asked. "The guarantee is that I have always played the part of a model wife. Let me finish this last act, and I'll leave the stage," said Britney, looking at her piercingly. Wendy thought for a moment, then nodded. The women exchanged meaningful glances, after which Britney got out of the car and slammed the door. Kevin always had a knack for charming women, as he did with Britney when they met. She was young and naive, fresh out of university, and dreaming of a happy family and a reliable man by her side. And the beginning of their life together was exactly what she dreamed of. But when their son grew up and went to 5th grade, Britney felt for the first time that something was going wrong. Britney discovered a woman's hairpin in her husband's car, and his explanation about a coworker's joke seemed strained. She accepted what he said, though deep down she doubted it. As time passed, her suspicions only grew stronger. Kevin began coming home smelling of other people's perfume, and his night job at the aid agency seemed increasingly dubious. When a list of mistresses was found in his phone, it was the last straw for Britney. She could no longer bear to hide her tears. It was time to pull herself together and make a decision. She knew that in case of divorce, she would not be able to claim half of the apartment that was registered to Kevin. However, she had a plan. Having inherited a summer house from her grandmother, she sold it and invested the money in buying a new apartment in a building under construction in her son's name. Now she could quietly wait for the construction to be finished, while she continued to accumulate her own savings and live a no-frills life. Britney had planned her exit from the marriage carefully and methodically to ensure a stable future for herself and her son. And now, standing in front of Wendy, she was ready to take the final step in that long process, allowing Kevin to leave for another woman. But Kevin didn't seem to feel the need to change. He was enjoying his double life, unaware that Britney had long ago figured him out and was preparing her own moves on the chessboard of their relationship. That's all she had to do was keep up the appearance of routine for a little while longer. Sometimes she wondered, why didn't Kevin initiate the divorce? The answer was clear. He was comfortable in the current situation, where he could live a double life, believing that his wife was clueless and unable to act on her own. When Britney received the keys to her new home, she felt truly relieved and happy. She had already collected money to buy furniture and essentials and was now ready. Her son's coming of age was the last event at which Britney played the role of a faithful wife. Kevin, unaware of the impending changes, continued to celebrate, while their son, Zinka, was already aware of his mother's plans and was ready to support her. Meanwhile, Kevin continued to date Wendy, and for a while she stopped pressuring him about the divorce. They spent time together, enjoying, but behind all these pleasures of life, Kevin seemed to have forgotten that his son had grown up, had successfully graduated from high school with a silver medal, and was now preparing to enter a prestigious position, perhaps in the medical field, where more responsibility and attention were required. Britney, having found out about her husband's affair, did not make scandals. She continued to live an ordinary life, attending courses to improve her qualifications, coming home late, and not asking unnecessary questions. Kevin, considering himself the complete master of the situation, did not notice the changes in his wife's behavior. When Kevin returned home and found the apartment empty and his family gone, he was shocked. All the items that filled their home and made it cozy were gone. He called his wife and son, but no one answered. Wendy, for her part, was happy that Kevin was now completely hers, and they spent their time in carefree fun. But when Britney filed for divorce, Kevin tried to talk her out of it. However, she was determined and did not stay alone with him, discussing everything in the presence of her girlfriend or mother, and by the fall, Britney and Kevin were officially divorced. Kevin and Wendy flew to Turkey to celebrate the divorce, while Britney was preparing her son for the school year at the university. The situation played out exactly the way Wendy wanted it to. Now that she was a quiet wife, no one interfered with their life with Kevin. But as time went on, the idleness and carefree life began to grow boring, and their relationship began to crumble under the weight of emptiness and routine. Kevin, who had lost the familiar routine and comfort that Britney had provided, found himself in a quandary. His new life with Wendy, who turned out not to be as welcoming and willing to do household chores as he had expected, quickly lost its luster. He had to face a reality in which he was not a welcome guest, but rather an unwelcome burden. Wendy, unwilling to take on the role of homemaker, eventually kicked Kevin out the door, suggesting he return only after he had gotten his life in order and acquired a household staff. Now 2 years later, Kevin was standing in front of Britney's door, who had already gotten his life in order and was preparing to receive friends. His appearance spoke volumes about how difficult the last few days had been for him. He had come to congratulate Britney, perhaps hoping to reconnect or even help. Britney, surprised by his sudden appearance, greeted him condescendingly, but also with some wariness. Britney reacted to Kevin's visit with restraint and determination. She realized that it was already over between them and did not want to resume communication. Her response was clear. She offered to give Kevin flowers to a random passerby, thus making it clear that their relationship was over. The appearance of another man from Britney's apartment, Dennis, who was busy preparing for the reception, emphasized that Britney now has a new life and a new relationship. Her joke about marrying the clock and Dennis's response about an unlimited life subscription indicate their closeness and understanding. The smell of burning that caused Britney to flee to the kitchen and Dennis's languid gaze in her wake, accompanied by the word dream, suggests that they have a warm and caring relationship, full of ease and mutual support. This contrasts with Britney and Kevin's previous relationship where support and understanding was lacking. The story shows how important it is to be able to move on after difficult situations in life and how it is possible to find happiness after disappointments. And don't forget to click the bell to be notified of new videos. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.